Hi, Dr. Willis here. I wanted to talk to you a few minutes about prevention, and especially one way to prevent, which is sealants. There's actually four ways in dentistry that we prevent cavities from happening. One, of course, is brushing, and everyone does that and uses fluoridated toothpaste. The second way is flossing. And then the third way is the use of systemic fluorides as well as the topical fluorides. And then the fourth way is sealants. And sealants is a very specific thing. We use them at certain ages on teeth. It's best on sealants to be able to put them on teeth right after they come in. So tooth eruption is very vital to when you put them on there. The best chance to get a cavity in a tooth is within 3 years after eruption, and we're talking about pit and fissure sealants. So that's a big deal there, is getting them on in a timely fashion. The first permanent molars come into the mouth at about age 5.5 to 7, so that at those ages, that's a good time to try to get that sealant on there as soon as the tooth comes in. And of course, Mom and Dad, you know you're supposed to be brushing before then anyway to keep the bugs out of there. Permanent teeth have steeper grooves in them than primary teeth do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the tooth structure of a permanent tooth. In a normal tooth structure, if you'll look at this first picture, you can see the coalesced groove, and that's where it develops very nicely, smooth all the way down to the depth of the groove, and then it comes back up on the other side, and it's very easily cleaned with a toothbrush, that kind of thing. That's a very nice tooth, and it needs to be sealed right there at the tip of that's where you're going to get plaque hanging around. A toothbrush bristle will just about clean that groove though well. If you'll look at the next picture though, it's an uncoalesced groove, and you see it looks like it comes together there, but then below where it looks like it almost comes together, you have a little space, and we call that an uncoalesced groove. And there's a significant number of permanent teeth that come in with an uncoalesced groove, and it has a little pit there below where it looks like it comes together. Now, toothbrush bristle's not going to get down there and clean that, and so for that reason, I always open the groove, clean it out, make sure that we don't have an uncoalesced groove. It's amazing at the numbers of times that you run into that when you're working in the mouth. So we want to make sure we get it cleaned down into that uncoalesced part. I use a laser, which also helps with the bonding procedures in doing the sealant, so it'll really clean that groove up and it'll shape the groove a little bit and really be a nice way to seal that tooth. I would like to show you now on this model here how we'd like to see sealant go on. Sealants are made of plastic, so it goes on in a liquid form. If you can see, I'm just going to use this sealant dispenser as a pointer, but right here in the groove you can see how steep the grooves are. Now this tooth is an example of a tooth that's already been sealed, but I'm going to squirt a little sealant in this groove. Now it goes on pink and it may run downhill because we got gravity working against us here, but I don't know if you can see that pink, and I haven't covered all that groove. But what we're going to do here is I will use an instrument. Once I get it prepared in the mouth, I'm going to use an instrument to kind of spread that in the groove and make sure it's flush with the margins of the tooth. And we're just going to make sure that all those areas are flush so that it's smooth. There's no rough areas once we set it up. And we use a bright light in the blue spectrum range, and we're going to shine it on that. And if you noticed, it went on pink. But once I light that, it's going to end up being white. And then you've got a groove that's nice and sealed, and you've prevented stuff from getting down in there. If you'll notice that there's it's nice and smooth, and you've got a sealant protecting your teeth. Now, there are a couple of things you need to avoid with sealants. Because they're plastics, you want to avoid ice. Ice is probably the worst of the dietary things. Ice is so cold, and it's a plastic, so it's going to shrink down when it gets cold, just like all plastics do. And when a plastic shrinks down, it becomes rather brittle, and so you're eating a hard surface, hard item on that surface, and it's going to be cold as well. You can chip that sealant out of there if you're not careful. In fact, all of you out there that have bonded fillings in your mouth, if you want them to last longer, keep ice out of there because it shrinks them and makes them brittle. So, and that's the same with sealants. Sealants can stay on there for years and years. I've seen sealants on teeth for probably 10 to 12 years without problem, as long as you treat them properly. So you want to be careful of that. But sealants are a great way to seal the teeth up and prevent cavities, and that's of course what we all want to do.